Hello again. Recently, I uploaded a video showing this character's walking process, and I thought, why not talk a bit about how I did it? While you see me creating the grid for the background layers in the video, I don't think this step will be difficult for those already familiar with the software. In this tutorial, I'll try to explain all the difficulties I faced and the mechanics I used to create a walking skeleton. So, let's jump straight into the rigging. I'm starting the rig with X and Y points that will move the pelvic bone and the entire upper torso. From the Y point, I'll create 3 bones along the spine. From the last bone, I'll place 3 points on each shoulder and near the base of the neck. From this point, I'll create 2 bones, one assigned to the neck and the other to the head. Starting from the shoulder points, I'll generate bones for every segment of the arm. Regarding the finger bones, they need to be parent to the palm bone. It will hardly be noticeable, but I'd like to convey the movement of the sleeves, so I'll create a simple construction for that. For a collar, I'll also create a rig of the same type. Starting from the primary collarbone, I'll create bones for the tie. The leg bone structure will originate from the pelvis bone. We'll set up a rig for the hair strands, with bones originating from the head bone. The same rigging system applies for this type of ears. Now, a brief note on the eye rig, since going into detail would make the video too long. If you're interested, check out a separate video. Set up this type of bone structure originating from the head bone. Apply an IK to the eyelash bone. Do the same thing for the left pupil. Bind the point bone to the pupil and parent it to the long bone under first one. Disable rotation and scale on the pupil bone and turn off compress on IK. I'm binding movers to the eyelashes, first the head bone, then the movers. Next, let's go to the animation window and create movement for the eyelash mover side to side. Now we can apply weight to the layers to simulate the eye closing. With IK constraint option, this IK will move based on this bone. Set the parameters, and that's it. If the newly created constraint doesn't work, the reason might be the wrong order in the constraint folder. Drag the non-working constraint between those it should operate on. There we go. Create 2 new movers from the head, one for blinking and one for the pupil. Parent the upper eyelash bone to the assigned mover, and the pupil IK to its dedicated mover. We no longer need these eye animations on the arrows, transfer them to the main mover instead. By the way, the lower eyelash bone and the eyebrow bones move by the upper bone with the IK constraint applied. Don't forget to set this up. Also, add head bone to the face layer, then add eyelash arrow bones to the same layer. Add some weights to these points to simulate eye closing. I decided to show the leg rig in a separate project. Notice that I'm creating a not so typical leg structure, since the knee takes on an unacceptable shape when bent. That's why I came up with an additional setup similar to the main leg bones. I should also mention that the fit bone system isn't very successful. It was made up on the fly. I'll set up several bone chains originating from the pelvic bone to control the skirt. It's time to bind the bones to the layers. At this stage, there's no real point in going into detail. Just bind each layer to the bones that will control it. Speaking of binding to the legs, on the second pass to attach the IK to the knee and add a bit of weight to fix the knee into a more acceptable shape. First create the IK for the arm, and then for the fingers. The initial point bones of the limbs will act as movers that rotate the pelvis and torso. Apply an IK constraint to the shoulder and hip bones with these parameters, and bind the movers to each required layer. Now I'll distort the layers by applying mover weights, simulating a 3D rotation. At this stage, I won't go into detail either, but if you need more information, I have a separate tutorial on this. In our case, rotating the legs with these movers is a mistake, because when a character walks, the legs distort unnaturally. That's why it's necessary to create separate movers for the legs. Finally, we reached the last stage. The more work you put into the model, making it more flexible and rotatable, the higher quality and more realistic your animation can become. Let's use the X and Y movers for each leg. Moreover, don't forget the ankle IK, since it gives the walk a more natural look. When walking, the body has a slight bounce, and we can convey this through the pelvis movers. The shoulders will rotate in the opposite direction of the pelvis. The spine looked too stiff, so I added a slight side-to-side bend animation. To add more fluidity, I used the offset parameter so that each spine bone animates one after another. For the hair bones, I do the same thing, bending them in both directions and using offset to stagger the animations. In our case, the ears are also animated using the same principle. To match the hair animation to the walking rhythm, shift the entire bone animation using the offset. Finally, I'll add a blinking animation with the movers we created earlier. That's what I wanted to show you today. Don't judge my explanation too strictly, since the full details would take more than one tutorial. Rewatch this video for better understanding, and check out the related tutorials to fully grasp the material. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.